Welcome to the Hank Cisco Show, ladies and gentlemen. Please don't touch that dial. My guest today is the Sheriff of Montgomery County, okay? And the Sheriff's Department has a lot of responsibilities. And I think, and I've been around quite a bit, and I think that the sheriff we have here in Montgomery County, I think, is the most qualified, has most experience than any sheriff that I know of. And he's not a political guy. He didn't get the job because he's political or anything. He got the job because he's a people person. He knew about law. He worked with the county detectives and worked with some of the top, what do you call them, doctors in reference to murders and all, the autopsies and stuff. He is so well qualified. And one thing, and he's from Conshohocken, born and raised in Conshohocken, fireman, you know. He's head of the ambulance, Plymouth Ambulance Corps, I guess you call it. But let me tell you, I'm throwing a lot of roses, you know. I'm just letting you know who he is. But I'd say that, you know, he's never fought as a professional fighter in the ring. You know, but he fights for the people. He fights for the people. Maybe he had a couple fights in the ring, but he's a person that he's not afraid of staying up. And I'll say one thing, he never lost a fight in the dressing room. If there's anything to do, he's right out front. And so my guest today, Sheriff John P. Durante.
How are you,
Thank
Hank?
you.
Thanks for having me.
I'm building you up now, and I know that you can handle it, right?
Well,
now,
I don't know about building up.
Well, you know, when we talk about sheriffs, we talk about the Wild Wild West and everything. But, John, today the Sheriff's Department plays a lot of dealings with the economy and all. So tell me something about the sheriff sales and the counties hit the hardest for foreclosures.
Well,
tell me something about that.
I think, first of all, foreclosures in the county, the economics structure the way this county is. There's different areas of the county, and unfortunately, each one of them are pretty much hit the same, whether it's loss of corporate jobs, whether it's loss of, high, strong stock jobs and things like that. Years ago when we were growing up, if construction went down for the winter time and, some parents didn't work, they tried to manage it through. Factory workers closing and coming up, as I seen it in the 60s to 70s, and finally really smacked us in the 80s of moving businesses south because of, lower cost or whatever. And then jobs also going our steel industry overseas and all this. Growing up, you see this, you've seen it in the neighborhoods and everything. And one of the problems we have today is we have that it's collapsing on everybody. And I don't think we've ever seen that time. Right, it's in the stock markets, it's in industry, it's in medicine, it's in insurance industry, and it's just everything. But the fact of it is that, we have people that bought in one range over their means because they thought that the egg was there and the job was always going to be there. And unfortunately, it hasn't happened. So we're up in sheriff sales probably around 75 to 100 a month more. Okay. But these sheriff sales, when you have a sheriff sale, it takes anywhere from 90 to 120 days to even get posted because, number one, is the person has certain rights such to bankruptcy, negotiation with the banks, doing negotiation with the banks, doing reverse mortgages, things like that, if they're eligible. The fact that we see this and we work on it, and make no bones, my job is to enforce the laws and the regulations, not to legislate them.
Talking about enforcing the law, tell me the one thing about there was a sheriff sale and you stopped it. Now, I said you're a people person, you're down there to help the people. Tell me
what happened there is we can get into that. The sheriffs, some of them stop the sheriff sales or whatever, and it's really nothing. They stop them long enough before the bank and the lending institutions can get an injunction and get you back on. Well, some of the things that you do here, I had an individual case at just last sheriff sale where a family had postponed one to sheriff sale and the bank turned around, and I guess it did floated a lot of controversy and a lot of people on my side, but it was true. The fact of it is these people got a reverse mortgage. It was coming back to sheriff's sale after bankruptcy. Now, they were following their constitutional rights, which afforded them to try to keep their home. One person in his family had some illness several times. They got a reverse mortgage, and they came to me, and by no means can I say a sheriff's sale stopped. I'm not a judge. A court has to do that. It's due process.
Recommended.
Right, or a court order. Well, what happened is a lot of these, I will have my solicitor, Tom Spears, approach the bank. I talk to these people, and a lot of this is elderly, and it's uncalled for.
Quality of life.
Right. So what happens is the banks generally work with us and try to work with those people. This bank said no. So I went with my solicitor
You go beat them up in a roundabout way.
to court, and I got an injunction and stopped the sheriff's sale.
Good.
It wasn't popular with the banks, but I'm not here to win a popularity contest with anybody. I'm here to try to do the
what's
best
right.
job and what the taxpayers did.
Helping the people.
You know, in looking at some of these things, Hank, is that our elderly here, and this is something I've learned since becoming a sheriff, and it's bad, and not many people are looking at that. You know, these are people that work all their life, work hard, and they're not looking for handouts. They gave handouts all their lives. They pay taxes, they pay school taxes, and when you work so many years, Social Security, you can pay for your home. That's supposed to be, I guess, the twilight or something that you earned.
Right.
It's not a given, you earned it.
Right.
Well, the fact of it is that my opinion on this, and it's strictly an opinion, is that, you know, where's the stimulus for the elderly? Where is it at a certain age that you work till 70 years old that you don't pay no more property taxes or whatever? You've already paid your dues. You know, you have a child in school.
Kept the ball bouncing.
Your child 50 years ago graduated, but you're still paying that school tax for the other children coming up, and I think that's good that people do that to keep the community going, and that's called communities. But the fact of it is that we're not doing enough for our elderly. We're not doing enough to say thank you. We're not doing enough to do things for their health, for their welfare. You know, when it comes time that I saw this family have a choice of medicine, buying food, or paying their mortgage. And I witnessed that firsthand, and I just felt we have to do something. And myself and the 5 county sheriffs will continue to do that. We're going to start looking at some of these cases.
Good, that's it, that's, you know, and helping people. But, you know, that's, that's one area. Now, the sheriff's department also has to do with public safety. Now, tell me some of the issues you're facing now.
Well, a lot of the
things on
issues
public
that
safety.
we face now, that we are a nation.
You help the whole county as
Right.
far as public safety.
We're a nation and a county of people that are now, for some time in our life, living in real fear. You know, when I was a young fella growing up, you know, they would teach us to hide under the desk in air raids, and, you know, they were building bomb shelters, and it was going, and it was always a threat there. Well, there was really a threat and an attack to the security of this nation.
Right.
And the fact of it is the government's been stepping up, and we've been working with the Montgomery County Public Safety and the Tri-County areas called the Southeastern Terrorism Task Force. Some of the things that we've done is we stepped up in Montgomery County, and is we appropriated motorcycles through grants and stuff to help get the hospitals and do traffic. We have a bomb squad.
K-9, you have a K-9
Well,
unit? How's that? Is that
we
still
are working
functioning?
on that, but I have to tell you that there's more canine dogs out there in the police departments that we can use to help us. What we tend to do is we focus on hospital security, transportation.
Transport prisoners, right?
No, well, transporting of people to areas of need in a hospital. We'll stay with that for a second.
Okay.
And the fact of it is just working generally with the police department. Now, there's a mutual aid pact which the Montgomery County police chiefs have put together. It's a fine pact where all the police chiefs get together and we all lend a hand.
Right.
Public safety is something that we have to really work with. Some of the things like, for instance, the bomb squad, and it really upsets me to no end at times where people have to call in these prank bomb calls, and they have to open packages and things when they're not supposed to.
Yeah.
Now, the fact of it is that it's here, it's a real threat. They all say it's going to come
Every
back.
day. Every day.
Every day. And it's not like that. It's a threat that our people take as much as a policeman, as much as a fireman, as much as a security officers or whatever. It's a job that they elected to do, and I'm very proud of my bomb squad and my people that work in public safety.
How about this, your home security? How do you coordinate that?
Yes, we
nationwide,
coordinate.
but you on the local,
We
the county
coordinate that through our Department of Public Safety, and what that does is we go through the police mutual aid. We work with their committees, work the fire department mutual aid, the ambulance mutual aids, and everybody gets together and comes up with plans. One of the things that I like to say and I like to promote the volunteers very much, that especially like when they had that disaster down in Conshohocken not too long ago, the fire, of how the firemen and the volunteers and everybody comes together to help the community in that spirit that comes from generations of families. And they really, you know, when they see a fireman, as much as a soldier or somebody that puts their life on the line, they ought to just pat them on the back a little bit. All first responders. I mean, these are people that get up out of their bed for nothing at Christmas time, and you know, don't have parties and things like that. And you know what? I think Montgomery County, you know, they voted Montgomery County one of the ninth place in the world that people want to live.
I agree with you.
I mean, and it's not only that. Every community is proud, as you are the ambassador in Norristown, you know, your community. But I got to tell you that, you know, we are working with the county commissioners, the district attorney, and anybody that will work with us in public safety. Our public safety department, we have a good, the county has, you know, commend the county for putting that training facility together on Conshohocken Road.
And you had that fire
school. It's now got a pistol range for the police.
Training sessions?
We train down there, policemen train down there. It's just a new campus. This is what tax dollars should be.
One other thing that you know, I want to tell you that you jumped right in. There was a scandal or something in an ambulance group or something, and you just jumped in there and took over. And now I understand it's smooth running and everything's moving. I don't want to knock anything, but like I say, something went wrong, and you righted it.
They didn't have something that went wrong, and I did not write it. The employees, the board of directors,
somebody
the
had
community,
to lead it. You're not the horse, you know, you got to lead them.
Righted it. They all came in and they did that. There is no function in life that a one man or one person or one woman or one child does.
Yeah, but you got to get in there and punch.
Well, it's not like a fighter in bob and weave, you know, because once he gets knocked out.
I mean fight, I mean to get in and do what's right, you know, and have the guts to do what you got to do.
Well, with Plymouth Ambulance, there was a few people that decided to steal from it, create a dummy business.
Got sticky fingers, right?
And through that business, they promoted it from the funds that come in. And what happens is that was all taken over again. They have a board of directors there of prominent people now, and the money's there. But you got to understand something, that the employees there stood fast. You know, they're the ones that still gave the care to our elderly and made do with what they had till it got done. You know, and when you're talking about ambulance services today in our county, ambulance services are where an individual now has to go to what they call EMS school, go to paramedic school, go to driving school, do all this. They have to pay a lot of money for that. This can get into the tens of thousands of dollars, so it becomes now a cost to them that they could no longer can volunteer. For instance, Plymouth Ambulance has about 11 volunteers, and they only do that to get their time up on the street.
They say volunteers. They do that on. They don't get paid?
Plymouth Ambulance is paid. 99% of Plymouth Ambulance is paid. And the fact of it is that's what you have to do to generate it. You can't say somebody give up half their, 4 or 5 years in training and say come out and volunteer for your community. Their families have to live. They need Blue Cross and Blue Shield. They need everything.
Do a great job.
But they stood up. The people at Plymouth Ambulance, they stood up. You know, the chief of operations that was there, who was vice president, became the chief of operations, was a police officer, is a police officer, know what they do. They just stood up and they came up, and when we went in there, we sat down and we said, look, you know, there's going to be some things that you may like about what I'm doing there. I'm not going to do it. And this person has their ideas, that's right. You can't satisfy, but they all came together as a team. Again, with this we team. You know, we make life today with the we team.
You know, a lot of people are going to remember you, the sheriff, when you leave another 100 years from now. They're going to say, well, what did he do? But I think one of the nicest things, and that you had a close relationship with the New York Police Department, Fire Department, first responders after 9/11, and you were able to secure a part of the building that was brought through your efforts, you know, in contacts and bobbing and weaving, and you know, got that part of the building, and it's right in front of the courthouse on Sweet Street. Unbelievable. Tell me how that happened.
Let me say how that happened. Let's give credit where credit's due, no matter what people say that John
somebody had
Durante,
to
the
steer the
sheriff,
boat.
is fighting with the commissioners and this and
Yeah.
that. This came from a commissioner. This came from the vice chairman at the time, was Jim Matthews, and I were having a conversation. Jim Matthews.
Oh, okay.
Said, you know, it would be awful nice if we had something that we
okay.
can put up on the courthouse to
Right.
commemorate these guys. And Jim was a guy. We got together. That thought was his.
Yeah, okay.
All right? A thought has to come from somebody, and somebody has to carry it out.
Yeah.
Well, that came from him. And I'm going to tell you something. He did a heck of a job.
Right.
You know, it's there. It's a monument. But what he did is, do you understand it? What he did and what I did, and when we used whoever to help us. Again, it took a lot of people to get that piece of steel here. It's a girder from the North Tower that Flight 111, or one of the jets hit. I don't know which one it is, and I'm not going to
First or
pretend
second.
that I don't. But Jim wanted that dedicated to everybody that died.
Right.
You know, the public servants were there, and
Died
we
at
prayed them. But you know what? He was really right when he was talking
great.
about the dishwashers, the window washers, the maintenance people,
right.
the people that
Everybody.
run the elevators, everything that was there. That is a salute to everybody. And you know what? You look at that and you can just say, look, we're a country that everybody said was steel.
Okay.
And when I look at that, and I know a lot of people look at that, and I look at that, well, I'm
like a
going to tell
hand.
you something.
like a hand,
Steel
right?
can bend,
Right.
or it can be forced
Yeah.
into ruins.
What we're
And
talking
that
about,
was it.
ladies and gentlemen, is that when you enter the courthouse on Sweet Street side, you go up the steps, and the first landing, look to the right, and you'll see this structure, a steel structure. I get it's steel, and it's like a hand.
It's bronze hands, I believe, that's holding up the structure, the superstructure that was from the North Tower
Okay.
of the
okay.
World Trade Center.
Right, okay. Now, tell me, you were a county detective. Now, I know I worked with you. Well, I was working juvenile, and I didn't go out on some of your calls, but I know that all hours of the night, when you get a call, murder, whatever, suicide, drowning, and you were out at all hours of the nights and had to go there, and you were well respected throughout the country. And I know that you spoke at different places representing Montgomery County, so you were real
Well,
credit. Tell me
I
something about
I
that.
still do my forensic work, okay? My crime scene investigations work, fingerprints, ballistics,
In other words,
blood
crime
stain.
scene, the first guy on the scene of the crime, be careful, right? Don't mess anything up, right?
Well, you know, we always said that. Keep your hands in your pockets.
Right.
I think I used to say that to you when you were a sergeant, lieutenant in Norristown, is your hands in your pockets.
Right,
I was
right.
just a young
well,
kid.
yeah, when you took over, when you got to the scene, everybody got away, and you start looking for
Well, you know what?
evidence.
It's physical
Blood.
evidence. Today, we see that on TV, and it's glamorized. You know, I don't know what it is with these shows. But, you know, when you get a piece of evidence that makes a person responsible for their actions and say that, and you team that all together with the laboratory people, the field detectives, the first patrolman, who's the very first person that protects it, that knows the witnesses and gathers that. That again is another we team. When you see these on these TVs like CSI and all that, they do it all. Well, that, you know, that's the furthest thing from the, you know, I wish that they could, over the years, over my 30 years, and the hundreds of homicides that I've worked, that our team could solve them and get them done in a fashion. There's only one thing that on TV, you know, good crime scene solving is only in the minds of producers and novelists. When you get out there and a laboratory has to work and you go through thousands of pieces of evidence and not come up with anything, these guys come up with evidence on
Right there, yeah. Well, they only got a half hour to do it, or an hour. You got to do it. You know?
They're solving the
How
crimes of
many-
the world.
How many district attorneys you work under?
I believe I worked under 12, close to 12.
Yeah, I Nicholas,
No, Moss first, Nicholas.
Moss.
Nicholas.
Now Moss hired me, okay,
Well, yeah.
but he became a judge.
Yeah.
And then it was Nicholas,
Smythe.
Smythe,
Waters.
Marino. Who else?
Let's see, there was Smythe, Nicholas, Waters. Oh, geez. Who am I forgetting?
Well,
Marino.
right. Castor.
Well, I didn't work on the case.
No, I didn't work on.
No, I worked for 4
I
days.
didn't either. I worked under.
That's a lot of
Nicholas,
years.
Well, okay, now, the sheriff's department responds to civil unrest.
Yes, they
when
do.
you need manpower,
Right.
right? Where one police department may only have 15, 20 members, you know, and something happens, they have to have backup. So you back up, right?
Well, what we do is the Sheriff's Department is, we are a service-oriented organization where the auspice of the sheriff is civil unrest. So that could be a strike, it could be a riot, and court injunctions and things like that. But the Mutual Aid Committee really runs that because you go into the jurisdiction. And what happens is if a police department calls our office and says, we're having this affair for the summer, we need next month, we need X amount of people to help with traffic, crowd control and all that, we do that, we do that. We have a CERT unit that's trained just in crowd control as part of the Mutual Aid.
You have a color guard too, don't you?
Yes, and we have a color guard, but...
Use them at the Columbus Monument.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Times, and also when you have the police memorial services, that's that. Now, what's this here Sheriff's Department Civil Advisory Citizens Advisory Council? What's that?
That is something that was created. We establish the DARE program in schools at the assistant
DARE,
police
okay.
departments. No, not just DARE.
Okay.
We have, for instance, the advisory council. There was a family that the father and the mother, there was an altercation, the mother was killed. I'm proud to say the Citizens Advisory Council went out there and raised $100,000 for those kids and gave them a college education. That's what we're about. The Citizens Advisory Council raised money to put the Norristown High School school paper back in business a while back, and they did that, and they won a national championship.
Oh yeah.
We gave money to Norristown School District for this track team. This is what we do. We're establishing through. And I must give a few plugs here, like persons like Michael Gretz Beer, who is the president of the advisory council, George Gunning, who was Continental Bank, is on their council. Caesar Gambone and the Holy Savior Club, which helped us send food for children down to New Orleans. We have Verizon that helps us, Dan Reevy. We have so many people.
You're
that are out
helping
there.
District Attorney Risa Furman in reference to mission kids?
Yeah, mission children. We raised $5,000 just recently for that, and it's a wonderful program that she's doing. And we're going to continue to sort that. And by the same token, we hope with Dr. Joe Domino, our health instructor, our Director of Health, who is also on the Citizens Advisory Council. This year, we're going to incorporate DARE and a bully program. The first initial...
bullying.
Oh,
yeah. How about putting the boxing gloves? I think that's the way I settle things.
Well, that's in the old days, but unfortunately,
Yeah,
Hank, I think we
have...
have...
One to La Banza, one to the nose, one to La Banza, one to the nose. No more bullying.
Well, the fact of it is the person that does that becomes the bully after a while.
No, you don't.
Not everybody can be...
Your offense be your defense.
Yeah.
Okay.
But...
I'm using Cisco tactics.
I know, but they're not. The fact of it is that when these people reach out and they're starting these programs, this program is going to cost initially $100,000, and we will raise that money.
Well, I talked to Risa and I said I want to contribute. I'm going to help. I had her on my show here. She talked about she sent a representative. I think because I worked in juvenile, I know it's very important to prepare kids before they testify or whatever. Give them a comfort zone. I said, I'm going to run a spaghetti supper. Can't beat that. Spaghetti, meatballs, sausage. I don't know. We'll think about it.
Well, you know what I thought you were going to do is when you started to walk in the park.
Well, we did that. That was cancer. Yeah.
Right, for the cancer, the young lady from Madison Bank who took that over said Hank's first prize was he wanted to give somebody
and I'm going to have it. I'm going to have it.
Yeah,
no problem.
Yeah, you're noted for that.
When I got diagnosed for cancer, prostate and colon and all that stuff, and they didn't have that machine at Montgomery Hospital, IRP or P, whatever, some machine that zeroes in. I said, why don't we have it? It says, well, money. And that started it. Stan Husky was very helpful on it. Now we're going to talk a little bit about little infighting. You are now in the process of a lawsuit in Montgomery County, right?
I am.
Tell me about that now, okay?
Well, I think it's things of that nature that, look, I'm going to tell you, let's start this and say right now, me and the commissioners are not enemies. We're not enemies.
Made a better participant emerge in triumph.
I have a respect. Jim Matthews has worked with me as vice chairman and chairman.
Go ahead.
And what happened was that we have this lawsuit going where they want to say that my chief deputy cannot engage in politics after hours.
Oh.
And the point of it is, it has nothing to do with that. Number one, the commissioners did not ask me what our ideas was. This is the first administration that didn't come over and ask the row officers what their opinion on. We are separately elected.
Right.
When we started, they wanted for economic reasons to shut down the DUI centers, for instance. I fought for that. That's public safety at its best. You know, tell somebody that their child got killed because the second offense drug or driver was drinking again and he wasn't caught or whatever. But the fact of it is we did that. We had to enter into a lawsuit with that. We have to say that the
We're
people
land of law,
elected
right?
the elected officials separately, if they elected them all to be there to do that. Now, on the same vein, it was a mandate that they were going to do to me. So now, what would they do next? Tell me I can't serve warrants in the middle of the night, or I can't do this and I can't do that.
No.
But the fact of it is that they really did, is what really bothered me, as you know, that I got a set of stars, and we're not going to talk where they came from because it's a beloved friend of us that gave us those stars. You were there, you helped pin them on me that night. And they told me, you know, a commissioner, and I'm not going to mention his name, went into slandering me. You know, saying that I have delusions of grandeur, or that I could sew another star on my uniform if I could do that. You know, they don't say to
can't get
me as an
personal.
elected official that I work for the taxpayers and I do the best I can in child support, making arrests. I fulfilled every promise I've made to the taxpayers. To have them come over and say, well, we're going to run your office and we don't care who it is. You know, and it was said right by one of the commissioners. Is that if this was so, the county commissioners would have been giving orders to the row officers years ago. But you just can't have somebody that comes in and says to you, now, I'm here now, you're doing wrong, and I'm going to control your office. Let's face it, there's no politics in my office. It's not allowed to be in my office.
Well, let me tell you. You made your point, okay? Now, if the commissioners want to come over here and discuss the other end of it, it's no problem. I'm not siding on anything. You have a right to sue. You have a right to stand up for your rights. And they have a right to do what they're going to do, okay? So, and then
Well,
like they say
listen.
in Madison Square Garden, made a better participant emerge and triumph.
It's not a question of that. It's a dispute, and it has to be settled, whether it's a referee just settling it, whether it's a courts, it has to be settled. And look, the only shame of this here is I've been